welcome to my channel, or welcome back. My name is Alyssa and I like to pan through my makeup just to make sure that all this money I have spent on things that I think are pretty are actually getting used on my face. And so if you want to see what I'm working on right now, which is panning some eyeshadows, then please keep watching. What I did in the initial video was I rolled in 6 eyeshadows, and I am trying to focus right now on just my magnetic eyeshadows. So it could be ones that are in a palette but can be removed, or it could just be singles. And my idea behind this is just I get really annoyed and just bothered by having, let's say I'm working on 6 eyeshadows and they're each in a different palette, and then my bag is just getting so weighed down with all these palettes because then there's other projects that I'm working on with other palettes, and it just gets to be a lot. And opening up that many palettes, to do a look or see if I want to use the eyeshadows, all of that, I wanted to kind of streamline it a bit for myself. And so this way, if I can kind of, whatever I can fit in a palette. So it was 6. We're gonna see what it turns into for this. But I do have some progress. I did not hit pan on all 6 eyeshadows. That would have been a bit ambitious by this point. But the 3 that I finished, 2 I'm not surprised about. The other one was. So the first one that I hit pan on was from my Citrus Punch palette. So like I said, this counts because they are magnetic and easily removed. So the shade I was working on was Tasty, which is this one right here, and you can see the pan. So it did not take that long. It was just 4 uses and I was able to hit pan on that one. So, not too bad. It's not a favorite eyeshadow from this palette. It's okay. I kind of want it to be a bit more of a brighter orange or something, or the shimmer, I don't know, just something about it. It ends up being almost dull, even with the shine. So, but I did hit pan, and that's great because I am now at, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7 pans in this palette. And there is then one I'm still working on from here. I'll go ahead and show it. So this is the other eyeshadow from that palette that I'm working on. And I have so far used it 9 times. So, you can still see the imprint of, that they had on it, if it will focus and if I could be steady. Yeah, and I don't feel like there's a little bit of a dip, but not that much. So this one's probably gonna take a while. I've even done as a liner on my lower lashes. I've done all over. I've done outer corner and kind of packed it on, but yeah, it packs on easily, not many layers needed, and it's nice orange, so that's okay. I knew it would take a little while, but I do want to have pans on all of my eyeshadows, really, so, it's okay. The next eyeshadow that I hit pan on was from the palette that has no name at this point, Fairy Tale Fairies. Even the stuff on the back is basically all gone, so that's funny. But the eyeshadow I was working on here is the shade Ethereal. And so that is right here. Can I show the pan? I don't know if I can. It is pretty small. If I hold it this way, then you can see it in there. All right, so this one took me, again, just 4 uses. I will say that this palette, I'm not sure, do both of them smell like that? Let me see. Not this one as much, maybe a little bit. This one doesn't. I'm sort of wondering, it would be really sad if I had to declutter it. I'd received these from a friend, and it was basically like a declutter type of thing. And so I'm wondering, I don't know, maybe how old were they? Is this expiring? I don't have any issues when I use it. So yeah, but I might need to consider decluttering this one by the end of this year if, because I'm sort of, one thought was well, other people's houses have their own smell to them, that kind of thing. When you get stuff, it's is it that? But this one has it and not the others really that were from, all together. So I'm sort of wondering if it's something with this palette. But I did hit pan, so there we are. Now, the next eyeshadow I hit pan on, I was very surprised, but not really once I started getting into using it. So it is my black eyeshadow from my C'est La Vie palette. So that is right here. All right, so you can see that pan in there. And you might also see that I was kind of digging. So the way I was using this was as eyeliner, and I wanted to see what would happen if I used it with my mixing medium that I have, because I don't have liquid eyeliner or any type of eyeliner at this point anymore. I don't like the fact that they expire, you know, well, it's not even that they expire. Sometimes they dry out, but it's also that you're only supposed to use it for so long before tossing them, and they're not cheap. So, and I would always have issues with them, like either they would run or it would be hard to take off, or, you know, all this stuff. So I was like, well, what would happen if I kind of made my own liquid eyeliners with, you know, my eyeshadows and a mixing medium? So it actually worked really well. I have been using it for the gray eyeshadow, which is the other one I'm working on from here. And I have it on right now. It's okay, but I think because it's not as dark as the black, like the black worked really well, but it really didn't take that many uses once I started doing it that way. I think it was maybe just 3, because I basically scraped a little off onto a palette that I have, like a little metal sheet, and then, you know, I mix the stuff, and then I just clear away whatever I didn't use. But, you know, I usually try to only scrape off what I'm going to use, but it's hard to judge. So it did take me 17 uses to hit pan. So like I said, I feel like, you know, it's not an insignificant number that I had to use. And maybe the fact that I hit pan on the black first was also just that I would probably use this one more than the dark gray, which I'm going to show you now. So the dark gray, that was called Bitter, by the way, and this one's called Shy. This one, so far, I have used it 22 times, and I do not have pan. But again, I just started trying to do the digging type of thing. Did I do it? Have I done it twice now, maybe? Yes, I did it today, and I feel like I did it yesterday, but I could be wrong. And, you know, it's probably still gonna take a little while. Like, it's going down, but yeah. And otherwise, I've been using it in my brows, so I have it there as well. It works pretty well for that. The final eyeshadow I've been working on is from my Prados Matriarch palette that I kind of deconstructed and I made them magnetic. So it's this eyeshadow right here, which is kind of like a periwinkle sort of shade. And I do have a nice little dip going. I've only used it 7 times, so, you know, not as much as the other shades that I'm still working on. I do have it in my look today. And, you know, I have multiple colors that are very similar to this. So it's one of those where by the time I hit pan, I might decide to declutter it, you know, especially if you compare it from right in this palette. I found that when I mix this shade and this shade together, I get this shade. So you know, because it's a little darker than that one. So yeah, I don't need it in that sense. And they're magnetic as well, but it is kind of nice that it's small. So, but yeah, so these 3 are still then hanging around. I'm going to try to roll in probably 3 more eyeshadows to work on, but we'll see what fits. All right, so I have it ready, and I have all the eyeshadows in here. I think I've said before, and so there might be some that already have pan, some might not be. Oh no, I don't know. This shade is new, Lunar Lavender. Do I want to try to hit pan in it? I mean, I guess I could. I've had it now for at least 6 months, so I guess, you know, that feels like something I could do. Okay. Dollhouse shade, I can't do because those are not magnetic. Prados 28. I had to double check. I already have pan on that eyeshadow, so we're not going to do that one. All right, Sickly Sweet, not magnetic. Dollhouse, not magnetic. Crystallize is magnetic. Not magnetic. Nope. It's going to do all the dollhouse shades, isn't it? Pacific Northwest is also not magnetic. But it just means it rules these out for later, so. Nope. I thought I was going to do a Sydney Gray shade. Juicy Boost is magnetic. Okay, so Juicy 7, it does have a pan. I don't know, I was thinking like the one column was 1, 2, 3. I'm like, that's not how I count my eyeshadows. Okay, here we go. Keep going. Nope. Oh. That one does not have a pan. So the 3 eyeshadows that I was working on already, I'm gonna swatch first so we can see those. So we have the dark gray, we have an orange, and we have that periwinkle shade. Okay, now we're adding in these 3 eyeshadows here. So not very fun colors, I have to say. So apparently it wants me to do neutrals, I guess. So we have, I'm just going to kind of go off of my hand now. We have this shiny purple, which I do like a lot. Crystallized shade is like probably one of the most boring in that palette. And then what's funny though is this brown from Sydney Grace, I had been actually kind of trying to work on panning that in a way, like I was using it a bunch. So it already has a good bit of uses on it. It is a nice dark brown for me. And you know, I think I'm good with that. But yeah, this is definitely not my kind of color story. But it's okay. I will, I think, be able to use, you know, the eyeshadows with other things that I am working on. So yeah, it's not very inspiring, is it? So we will see, you know, can I get these 3 rolled out by the next update? And then, you know, we'll see how these 3 are going. I'm not sure how Bella Butane mattes are. I know Sydney Grace take a while. Terra Moons, that's what this one is. Shimmers are actually not that bad. But I know I'm going to feel a little bit like, ooh, every time, because it's like, I don't necessarily want to pan the eyeshadow because it's still pretty new, but I do like it. So yeah, and then I am going to be traveling soon, so I might decide to take some of these in a palette, like the brown and the purple. I'm not sure about the grays and all. We'll see what I'm in the mood for. But yeah, so if you want to see how it goes with hitting pans, like I, you know, feel pretty good that I already got 3 in this project, then please keep watching, subscribe, that kind of thing to the videos I put out. And I want to thank you for watching. Until my next video, I hope you'll be doing well, and I'll see you then. Bye!